YouTubers, what's up? It's your boy Hamlet, and this video is going to be about I secured my first direct shipper, all right, direct customer, whatever you guys want to call it. All right, we're here in Louisiana, and I just finished delivering one of the loads, and I wanted to talk about how I got this direct shipper and what is the product that I am hauling. All right. A lot of people always say in the trucking community, saying that a lot of owner ops saying the best way to make the most money is to cut out the middleman, which is i.e. the broker, and get direct shipper and direct accounts. That way, you're getting the most money out of the things that you're doing, which is hauling freight. All right. So this customer actually is they haul bees. All right. They're actually a bee farm. All right, like bumblebees. All right, and essentially their business is in making honey and anything that the bees produce, which is stuff such as honey, obviously. And bees actually make quite a bit of money if you begin to understand what I start to talk about. I thought bees only made honey. Well, bees make honey. Bees make wax, right? That's the kind of byproduct of honey. And wax is actually used in candles, right? And a lot of nuns like to use, well, a lot of churches like to use wax from bees because it's natural, and when it burns, it doesn't make that black smoke like regular candles do. Something I didn't know. And this information I'm getting from obviously the shipper, and he's just telling me about his business. Actually, bees also have a kind of pharmaceutical need because there's this kind of thing that kind of helps with like acupuncture. I guess it's the venom from the bees or the saliva, one or the other. There's a medical healing property that comes in, like pretty much like the lip balm, like beeswax, Burt's Beeswax, when you put it on your lips, stuff like that. So, and then obviously the honey. I mean, if you really think about honey, a single little jar of honey can cost quite a bit, like $5, and even honey has natural healing properties, for your sore throat and all that. And anyways, just a lot of stuff I learned, that I didn't know about on bees. For the record, I hated bees, right? I hate bees. I am scared of bees, like if a bee ever came inside the truck, I would flip the truck over because I would just be trying to get out. All right. Hauling bees, I've learned that there's actually a difference, right? You got bees, and then you got hornets. Okay, so the hornets are the ones I was afraid of. Actually, bees are pretty calm when I was handling them. Because I hauled so far, this is probably the 4th load I've done so far, hauling bees and bee equipment for this direct shipper. And bees are pretty calm. Like, they really don't go after you to try to sting you or anything like that, But if you start, flailing your arms, and that's another story, But I learned to keep calm and kind of conquered my fear in doing so. And, at the end of the day, what are you really afraid of if you're getting paid, right? So you got to ask yourself that if you're willing to overcome one of your fears, why is it really one of your fears? You know what I mean? Anyways, we're gonna show you guys the truck here in a second, and we'll show you the bees. Anyhow, what else did I want to talk about? How did I land this direct customer? All right. Believe it or not, this load was actually, when I first hauled the first load doing bees, it paid really good, and I was willing to consider it. Most of the time when you haul bees, you had to have like special tarps, which are nets. And oh, look at this dog here. Anyways, I love dogs. You had to have special nets, bee nets, to haul bees. But this when I went through this broker, they said, oh, you don't need nets, they'll provide them. And so I said, oh, so it's game, I get to try it out and see if I like it or not. I went to pick up the load, and well, I guess I guess the guy, the shipper came straight to me, and he pretty much, said, hey, if you do a good job here, let me know. We always got loads coming out. And I said, okay. I took it like a grain of salt, like anything. And I said, yeah, let's see. I told him my background. I'm a military guy, and he has a lot of problem with different carriers coming that don't speak English, or not very common sense, or just dealing with a lot of idiots. Um, and he was pretty much on his last wits with this broker, because obviously the kind of quality of carriers that he was getting, right, or truck drivers that he was getting weren't good. And there's this thing in the industry where you pay for what you get, right? And so his assumption was that the broker was making a lot of money on the load, and therefore paying carriers very little to nothing, and essentially not getting top quality work, but still paying for that top quality freight, if that makes any sense to you guys. So he was on his last wit. So when he met me, I delivered the load. I did the communication like I always do, right? Let him know, hey, your product is halfway there. Hey, we delivered your load, all that good stuff, And he called me right up the next day, and he says, hey, if you want to deal direct, let's talk about a rate, and I really like using you and all that. And then I told him, what I have as my stuff, because here's the other thing, right? When you're going for a direct shipper, you can secure a direct shipper just being a solo owner op, because if the services you are providing are really good to what the guy's getting, obviously too, you got to consider volume. Volume is also a thing. But yeah, in this instance, he liked my service so much that I could have just been a solo owner op, and he would have gave me his freight, right? But now this comes to a thing with volume, right? Considering other shippers, right? Where if you don't have the capacity to handle the kind of volume, are they really going to want to be dealing with you, right? Because dealing with a shipper, they kind of want to know in advance, right? Like, yo, I need you here on this day. And it's kind of hard to commit to that, because essentially if you're in the wrong spot and you gave your commitment, if you're in the wrong spot of the United States, right? Let's just say if I'm in New York City and I have to be all the way in Ohio, and I gave my commitment to my customer that I was going to pick up, and if I didn't get a load, I'm going to have to deadhead that, right? Because you gave that commitment, right? And so there's been a couple times where I had to deadhead 300 miles just because I gave that commitment, and not, and that's the kind of service that's going to go a long way, because he continually calls me for every load that pops up, because when I said I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there, and that goes back to, providing service, which is one of the best selling features that you're going to have acquiring a direct shipper. So going back to volume, right, and the capacity, will a owner op be able to, knock on Walmart's door and say, hey, I just want to haul these loads for you, Maybe not, possibly not, right? And I tell you why. One of the reasons they're not going to want to deal with just a single owner op. I mean, imagine it from the shipper standpoint. Are you going to want to be dealing with 50 owner ops and 50 owner ops schedules and whatnot, or are you going to want to deal with just one broker who's going to take care of all that, right? So the brokers have their place. I will say that brokers do have their place. And so do direct customers. Without further ado, I won't get into that too much, but essentially the way I won this customer over was because I was able to actually squeeze out, and in case you were wondering, when I was trying to come up with the rate, I couldn't figure out like what was the necessary rate to come up with what I was hauling it for. So I put a question out there on Facebook, and I have a lot of friends that are truckers and that have their own business and whatnot. And I said, okay, so if I only made originally 3,200 off the load, how much how much am I supposed to be charging, you know? Well, guy said, you know, typically brokers are making anywhere from 10%, 15% to 20%. And when I asked, you know, I just went to the, you know, the shipper and I said, hey, you know what, like, what do you guys typically move these loads for, honestly? You know, because I'm not, you know, that's the other thing, like in SoCal's video, which, by the way, go ahead and check out SoCal Trucker Group on Facebook, SoCal Trucker Gang. And it's a group on Facebook where we talk a lot of stuff, and you can check that out. But of course, if you're already still watching this video, don't forget, mash that like button, mash the subscribe button, and drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think of this video. All right, see, I got the bees coming around, so I'm just trying to dodge them. Anyways, so I just asked, you know, honestly, like, what are you moving these loads for, honestly? You know, he says, well, we got a couple carriers, you know, we're paying, this is what we're paying, you know. And I said, okay, you know, that's a fair rate, because it was more than what I was getting. And I was actually able to get about $350 more than what the broker was charging. So I already done this load 4 times. I mean, the owner op had did one of them, and if you do the math on that, that's 4, 8, 12, 16, so about around $1,600, about $1,500, $1,600 extra that I've made if I would have been booking them through the broker. So definitely paid off, you know. But you have to take in consideration, there was a couple times that I had to deadhead about 300 miles just because things fell through. I wasn't, my truck wasn't where it needed to be, and like, you know how things happen, trucking happen, and I try to plan for it, but it doesn't always work out. But anyways, I'm pretty happy because these guys, from what it seems, they ship out quite a bit, and enough that I can still handle it, where we have 3 trucks on the road and we can handle their needs, you know. And if they say something like, hey, we got 30 loads, you know, we need to move them in a month or 2 months, you know, I'll still be able to, you know, tackle maybe half of that, you know, or 30% or 40%, you know, something that's like, okay, I know this carrier is going to take out a good chunk, let me get to this other carrier, they're going to take out another good chunk, you know, because that's really goes back to the whole power of capacity and being able to sell your services. Because if you're kind of like the one-stop shop, everybody's going to want to use you, especially if you're providing good services and not being late to deliveries and such. All right, so I hope this video, you guys find it, how do you call it, find it educational. So like I said, I went with the margin about 10 to 15%, and when they gave me that quote, when they gave me the rate that they were paying other carriers, it fell right around 11-12%. So I liked, I thought that was pretty good, you know, considering what other people told me and the way they told me. It did line up to what everybody was saying, and so I didn't feel like I was just, you know, hauling this freight for cheap. So without further ado, let's look at the bees. All right, that's my truck there. I'm hauling the owner op step deck right now. You can see it, Melon Trucking, right? Christopher Malone. He's got a step deck. He's leased on with us. If you ever want to use a step deck, not use his step deck, but you want to use his services, go ahead and reach out to us. But here it is. And actually, he lent me his step deck because the customer mainly uses flatbeds, but on the rare occasions uses step deck when he wants to get a lot of stuff on and it's light. So I worked out a deal with the owner op, and we switched equipment, you know, just to do this load, so that he knows that, you know, this is our customer, we got to take care of our customer, you know. So anyways, back to the video. you guys can see, there's bees around this thing. You could kind of see them. But they're around here. This is where the tank of honey is at. Let's see if we can zoom in. Alright, there you go. And the bees are starting to swarm these boxes. This is their hives. This is where they live at. And yeah, I don't got the bee suit on. I don't need it. This time I was only hauling what do you call it, empty beehives. The other couple times I hauled actually live bees, and that was pretty fun. You get all the funny looks at the truck stop when you pull up to fuel up or whatnot. But which brings to the other conclusion. One of the service requirements, because I'm hauling agriculture, I'm kind of exempt on hours of service, because you're hauling actually animals and they could actually die, or vice versa. It can have negative effect if you follow the hours of service, hauling them. And one of the requirements was that you cannot sleep during the day on a bee load, because the bees are going to want to start migrating outside of the nets, and they work themselves out of the nets that you put on, and they want to go pollinate, and by the time you leave, you lost half the bees. And I mean, that's potentially a huge claim, because if you show up to get unloaded and there's only half of the bees that are supposed to be there, I mean, that company's losing money, and in turn are going to want to file a claim against you. So I made sure all my drivers were on board with understanding those, the requirements of that. And that's like one of the special needs, because at the end of the day, right, these direct shippers, they want to deal with you, right? They want to deal with you, and here's why. You need to provide a answer, right, to the problem, which is what brokers do, right? If one of their problems is that they can only load on a certain time of the day, and they're having issues trying to find trucks during this time, or they only deliver to New York City and they can't find people who want to deliver to New York City, or all these are problems that they have, right? And so you want to be the solution to their problem, and that's what they're going to keep using your services for. And when the rates, and when you want to adjust the rate to go up, if they know that you've been providing nothing but good service, they're going to continue using you. And it doesn't matter so much on if you need to increase the price, because you've been providing such good service, and they don't want to work backwards, because you already have an answer to their problem, a logistics problem, right? So here's another beehive. I'm not going to get too close to this one because there's a lot of bees on this side. I don't know if you guys can see. Let me see if I can try to zoom this in. Nope, cannot zoom out. Okay. You guys can see. I'm not going to get close to the other hive because they're much more close. They're much more crazier over there. But yeah, I mean, look at this silo tank right back there. They told me that thing gets full multiple times in the summer. Could you imagine? Do you see the size of that tank? I mean, a $5 jar, right, of honey is like this, right? Could you only imagine how much honey you could put in there? You got to do like at least $1 million in that tank, right? So very lucrative business. It's always interesting to look at different venues of business and entrepreneurship, and it's really interesting for sure. But anyways, hope you guys liked that video. Hope I didn't drag it out for too long, about 20 minutes worth of it. And it can only get better from here, right? This is the first customer we secured, so we got to try to find another one that we're gonna like, owner ops and myself, that we're gonna like to do, and it's gonna be worth our trouble to satisfy whatever customer that is, right? Because you can go out here and secure a bunch of customers, it's easy to do so, right? But are they going to be worth it to you, right? Are they going to be paying what you want them to pay and everything? And are they going to be able to work with you on like their, on their timeline, and if you screw over on one particular load, are they going to drop you like hot potatoes? You know what I mean? Stuff like that, right? There's all good questions that you got to ask yourself, and see if it's actually worth doing, right? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, mash that like button, mash the subscribe button, and drop the comment down below. Ring the bell on the way out so you get notified. These bees is after me. So without further ado, at the end of the day, the question is simple. You get busy living or you get busy dying, folks. Check y'all later.